Hello, both sides of the conversation family. We welcome you to this virtual space crafted especially for you. My name is Jada Curry, and I'm both sides of the conversation's marketing director and graphics design specialist. I want to take some time to ground us all as a community into this space we are about to open up in, so let's go through our community standards. Both sides of the conversation is providing a safe and honest space for open conversation, so we ask that you all be respectful of that. We also ask that you be respectful of each panelist, host, and participant. We do encourage healthy debates and conversations. Don't personalize anything with anyone. This includes name-calling, bullying, trolling, or shaming. This will not be allowed or tolerated. Your perspective is yours. It is not a prescription. You do not have to agree, but show respect. These community standards apply to all of our live shows and any virtual spaces that we hold on social media, including YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. We want to make sure that we are caring for each other as a community. This is our priority in all of our endeavors as both sides of the conversation. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed today's show and continue to stay in touch with us via YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or all of them. All right, thank you for listening and see you soon.
Welcome, everybody, to Both Sides of the Conversation. I'm John Henry, Executive Director. Today is Sunday, so you know what that means. We're going to have another powerful conversation. And today's conversation, we're talking about reparations for the Black community. This is going to be a powerful, powerful conversation. Looking forward to our panelists today engaging in this conversation. With that being said, every Sunday we're here. Please go to our YouTube. If you would like to interact with the panelists today, put in some suggestions or questions, please go to our YouTube, Both Sides of the Conversation. Use the live chat function. Those will be the only comments we'll be able to see as you guys want to add. I know there's sometimes in Facebook, different things, we won't be able to see them. So you have to go to our YouTube and hit the Both Sides of the Conversation and hit the live chat function so you could be a part of today's conversation. With that being said, before we get started, just want to give out a couple of community announcements and some of the things that's going on. First of all, I just want to give our condolences and our prayers to the families out there in Florida that the building collapsed. I know there's about 5 or 9 reported dead. There's still about 100 plus people still missing in the rubble. Sad event. Just want to send our prayers out to those families. Tragic situation. And hopefully as the days move forward, we'll find out a little bit more what's going on. But definitely want to send those prayers out to those families, as well as we want to send condolences out to the families who lost loved ones over the last couple of days here in the Bay Area and across this country. Actually, in a lot of the large cities, we have had an uptick in gun violence, a lot of lost lives, a lot of things have been just transpiring coming out of this pandemic. So just want to give condolences and prayers out to those families. A number of families reached out to me. I've been talking to some of the moms, and I just want people to know losing your child to gun violence is a very, very impactful thing. And, I just want to make sure that our parents who lose their loved ones are acknowledged. And as community leaders and community organizations, we have to continue to do our part to support the young people in the community, support the things that's needed, and continue to keep this awareness of gun violence in our community and working with our young people. It just needs to happen. So just wanted to put that out there. And then lastly, we know we have a little heat wave coming here in California. Just want to make sure all the community hears it again. Please be mindful of the water usage, okay? We are having a real drought issue here in California as the weathers continue to climb over the next couple of days. It's supposed to be in hundreds in the East Bay. The water shortage is being impacted. So in solidarity community, let's think about our water usage as we're doing things, washing cars and taking showers and different things that we do. Please be mindful of the water usage and consumption because it is a real shortage, and we don't want to have these water outages like we're having with the power outages that really impact the community. We have elders, we have people with disabilities, A lot of people need the usage of their water, and the last thing we need is the water rationing to really be impacted. So just wanted to put that out there. Before we get started, just want to talk about today, the disclosure of the discussion today. We are having this necessary conversation about reparations that are past due for descendants of the African diaspora. This long-term historical process, known as the transatlantic trade slave, in which the African descendant have been scattered through our ancestral homelands to other parts of the world from 1609 to 1866, known as the enslavement or free labor. 12.5 million lives were affected. This is real. This is an important conversation. I know that it's starting to really hit the headlines and people are talking about it, but we have to educate people about this because a lot of people feel like, oh, why should we do reparations? I am not the one that enslaved people. A lot of different things we'll get into in this conversation today, and hopefully people will be educated about why this is important and how it impacted the community, especially the lost and the stolen generational wealth that's impacted this country. So I think that'll be some good points that we'll be hitting on today. But with that being said, I'm going to close my mouth and let's get on to the show. Let's start introducing our guests one by one and bringing them up. First, we're going to start off with Brother Rico Hamilton. This brother out here doing major things, but I want to go ahead and introduce him first, let him talk to the people about what he's doing and his participation in the reparations committee and stuff like that.
Oh, for sure. Thanks, John. I'm Omari D. Hamilton. Most people call me Rico. Native to San Francisco, born and raised. I do a lot of community advocacy. Right now, I'm working for the Human Rights Commission as the community development specialist on multiple projects that's happening within the city. Also, I'm on the Reparations Task Force, and I'm just really looking forward to this conversation. I don't want to say too much right now. I just really let's get this conversation started because this is like my passion. Is how do we uplift our people and really give them the support that they need so we can get out some of the conditions that we're in.
Definitely. Thank you, Rico. Our next panelist today is Asia Lampley, law student. Her interest in reparations over everything. So we're going to bring her up and let her introduce herself to the people.
Hi, thank you, John, for having me here. And thank you, Rico, for sharing that. My name is Asia Lampley, like you said, and I am a law student. I actually go by Asia Storm here. So try and edit that out if you can. But I'm a law student and I'm a graduate at Wharton School. My interest in reparations are just my realization from, going to the Wharton School and realizing that, education is not going to fix what's going on with the Black community. And not only that, some sort of like only recycling our dollars within our own financial ecosystem is not going to rectify what's going on with the Black community. We absolutely positively need cash reparations and our own land and our own sovereignty so that we are not perpetually victimized by a system that was put in place, quite frankly, to achieve our demise. And so I'm here today to sort of help uplift the consciousness of our people, for us to, make sure that we are maintaining high standards for what we are requiring of our federal and state governments if they're, willing to discuss cash reparations, which it seems like they are. And so that's why I'm here today. And thank you for having me here.
Oh, thank you, sister. Appreciate having you back. Next up, we have Michaela Johnson, who's a mental health advocate. Michaela, are you there? I know she has some trouble getting in.
Yes, I am.
Okay.
My name is Kayla Johnson. I'm actually an autism spectrum advocate. For me, I believe that reparations is important, especially in the mental health field. We've dealt with too much trauma in our lives already, and we are actually due like all the respect that we deserve.
All right. Thank you for coming on today, sister. And next up, we have Sister Tony Hines. She's a community member doing things for the community. Go bring Miss Tony up. You on mute, Tony. You on mute. Uh-oh.
Y'all, that was good stuff. Now I got to start over. My name is Tony Hines. I'm a community leader, a community healer, and I'm also on the Watchdog group to watch the city budget. As far as African Americans, we want to hold each department accountable for the disproportionality that our people are going through. So one of the things I believe in is community healing, trauma recovery, and again, watching all the departments, because it's not just one department that has disenfranchised us.
Powerful, powerful. Thank you. Last, we have Miss Kadori here. She's a philanthropist and a registered nurse. She's here to help with today's conversation as well.
Hi, thanks for having me. Yeah, I wanted to be a part of this conversation because me being on the front line as a nurse, as you know, racism is all across the board. I see it every day in healthcare from people that are not our color and how they treat us. And I'm an educated college degree person, so Asia, that the answer is not always education. We just need reparations. We need our land. We need everything they stole from our ancestors that helped cut off our generational wealth many, many years ago. So that's reparations is at the top of my list every day when I go out into the real world and see, how we are placed and how we're positioned in the society right now, and what we don't have as a result of what was taken from us and our ancestors.
Wow, powerful stuff. So we're going to get started, but I want to jump into a couple of facts and resources that we looked up just to put this out there to community. One of the facts, the examples of reparation that has already been paid in America. So the Japanese Americans interned during World War II, survivors of police abuse in Chicago, victims of forced sterilization, and residents of Florida town that was burned down. They received reparations. The European colonizers who transported an estimated 12.5 million African Americans Africans across the Atlantic Ocean between 1525 and 1866. Some of the disadvantages that has taken place since slavery, the Jim Crow laws, redlining, financial institutions denying mortgages to people of color, providing mortgage to them only in limited areas, and that still goes on today. And then ongoing systemic racism, being paid fair wages, starting businesses, education are some of the things that has impacted us. In 2020, there was an estimated 10 million eligible Black descendants of slavery at $267,000 per person would be a total of about $10.7 trillion is what somebody had estimated for reparations. I think that number is way low. But again, that's some of the fast information. And then we got a list of questions we're going to jump off to kick off today's conversation. And I want to just start off because we just go start off and jump into it. Straight into it, because a lot of people have different ideals of what reparations look like. And, people have different perspectives on it. But I want to start off today. If cash payments for reparations was issues, what should that amount be? I want to hear from the panelists today. I want to know, because when people talk about with cash and how much, I want to know from you all, what does that number look like when we're talking about cash payments to African descendants of slaves? And I know we talked about earlier the conversation, and I want to kind of put this out there because we know we're talking about the historic part of reparations. But in my mind, I'm talking about reparations not only from the historic part, I'm talking about and where we at now and moving forward. You know what I mean? Because these things that happened to us from slavery to now are still happening in different ways. So when we're talking about reparations, we need to look at it holistically, and it's really looking like all the way up to now and moving forward, because again, as we talk about reparations, we know how we're going to be impacted in the future as well. So want to put that out there, but we go ahead and anybody could jump in and get started, and we just go move it around.
To me, that was the bottom line. Oh, go ahead.
Okay, go ahead, Asia.
You can go ahead, Ms. Queen. I was going to say, you can go ahead, Ms. Queenan.
I was going to say, to me, that was going to be the bottom line big finale because everybody doesn't want the same thing. So for me, it's going to start in the millions, multiple millions. And some people don't actually want cash. You would think they would. Some people want business opportunities. Some people want housing. Some people want community ways for the community to make money. So I'm just going to spitball it and say 10 million to 100 million. I know that's a big ballpark, but again, are we talking about education? Should we have our own schools? Are we talking about opportunities for our doctors? Are we talking about pathways to business? So again, 10 to 100 million per person.
So you said 10 million per person. That's what I just wanted to get that up. So you said 10 million per person. Okay. Next, Asia, you want to go ahead, then Rico?
Yeah, sure. So I'd say that first we want to see what their number is. I don't, when we're negotiating prices and whatnot, we want them to tell us what they're willing to pay us first, because we might actually be pleasantly surprised if after they've done their research and we find out that we're owed, let's say, and this is an arbitrary figure, this isn't something that I'm leaning towards, but let's say they do their studies and it turns out that we're all individually owed at least $10 million, as Ms. Queenan said, today. But then over the course of time, as far as like what the inheritance would be for our offspring and whatnot, and when that's tied to the consumer price index, for example, which is a measure of the cost of living, right? It might be that we're going to be owed more money than that over time and multi-generationally. So I wouldn't focus on, an exact number right now. I want them to say what the number is, what they think the number is first. And then after we've done our due diligence and figuring out if that, financially makes sense, then we come back with our counter. And so what I want to, again, reemphasize is that whatever we're going to get should be tied to the consumer price index, or whatever index is going to determine what the cost of living is going to be. It's like a metric of understanding what the cost of living is going to be. So that, for example, if we're all given, let's say $2,500 a month in cash alone, but then, California decides to, raise the price of rent to $3,300 as the median for rent here, then it would make no sense for us to say that, okay, we need to be tied to that one price. So I'd be more interested in figuring out how we can bring all of our experts together through various industries to figure out what financially makes sense.
Wow, you blew me away. You caught me off guard. I was not expecting you to say that, but I'm gonna take it. I can't believe that, Asia, but I'm gonna leave it there. Go ahead, Rico.
I would 100% agree with Asia, but also, I mean, if I was to throw a number out there, personally, I would just say I wouldn't go on the high end or a low end. I'll kind of just keep it in the middle. Me personally, I would, go with 2.5. And here in San Francisco, when we look at the average house and the average house amount in San Francisco between 900 to 1.5 million, and that'll leave a person with $1 million to open up a business to, get their to get things that they actually need. That's essentially for their families and for themselves. So if I was to say a number, I'll say the 2.5. But outside of that, I kind of agree with Asia and not being able to put a number on it and being able to negotiate something that actually makes sense towards we can really say, okay, this makes sense for the Black community. Me personally, I think that reparations isn't just financial. I think that economic empowerment is number one. I think that is the goal. But then also what's reparations all across the board for our people to make sure that we are taking the holistic approach that John was talking about to creating these pipelines that's strictly for our people so that we can dismantle some of this systemic and this racism and this system that's totally against us and the laws that are against us no matter where we go and what we do.
And I have to agree with you, Rico. We already talked about this but we'll go to Ms. Kadari, and I'm going to bring Jamil up to the stage.
Yeah, I do have a number in mind, and the number that I would start with would be $5 million, no tax. And the reason why I say that number is because people need to be able to buy their home, start their businesses, and it takes a lot of money to start a business. They need to be able to pay off their student loan debts or any other credit debts that they have so that they're not liable to anybody else, because what kind of things hold us back is our credit, student loans, not having home ownership, renting. Nobody should be renting. We should have land, property, own your stuff, pay it outright. But I think whatever amount, if they're going to give a dollar amount, that it needs to be tax-free, because other cultures come here, other people, and they get stuff tax-free off of our tax dollars. So I think whatever it is, it should be tax-free.
All right, Brother Mill, I know you joined us late. We're asking about the reparations cash amount. What do you think that amount should be if we're talking about the cash amount?
Wow, that's a big question as far as a number. I mean, I wouldn't even put a number on it. I don't think there's no wrong number, in that regard. But we're definitely talking multi-millions for sure.
Definitely. And I'm throw mine in there. I'm with Rico, about $2.5 million. If you look at the national debt and you take down the numbers with interest over the years, because our people are the original people to put this country to move forward, and you break it down over the 400 years, minus the loss in investments that the United States have made, it comes back down to about $2.5 million a person. And again, I'm advocating for American African slaves, descendants of slaves, because a lot of times when we talk about reparations, and I know there's a lot of impact from all the different communities, but the American blacks has been the ones has been disenfranchised when it comes to things that impact us as far as legislatively. Everybody else get protected. When we talk about the minority clause, we get left out. So this reparation conversation, I'm really honing in on the American slaves here in this country. And I think this number, we could play with it all day, but I think that's something that we have to look at when we advocating from just the original reparations that was supposed to be submitted to the people years ago. We know it's impossible to do 40 acres in a mule, things of that nature. But if we look at the medium cost of homes, especially here in the Bay Area, 2.5 million would be a significant start for families and people to get started. And not just the cash amount that we just, that was the first question. But I think the overall reparation package, and I know Tony said in Asia, there's a number of things that we need to have in there that really impacts us as a people. And I think we're going to explore all that here shortly. But I think we have to have that conversation because this wealth gap has expanded. And our people are being left out. And I think reparations will definitely help some of the issues that we face in our community today when we talk about homelessness, gun violence, and some of the things that impact our community. So I think very important stuff. So
I sort of agree with what Jamel was saying. If I were to make an educated guess, I would say between millions to billions of dollars. And that's just an opinion because everything that we have gone and suffered through has hurt us so badly. And my thing is this: if I want to live a comfortable life and be able to help my family and everyone else, then I'm gonna need just more than just cash money. So.
No, definitely. I was coming to you next, but definitely I appreciate you jumping there. We know it's going to be more than cash money. We need a lot of things in this reparation package. But Michaela, would you like to put a number out that you think each person should get for reparations?
Oh, John,
I would say probably more than 10 billion.
No, for each person. For each person.
Maybe like 1.5 billion, 2 billion,
Okay, you talking about for the entire reparations, or we talking about individual, like what each person should get, like individually?
At least 2 billion.
Okay.
And
Show us
John,
the money. Go ahead, Jamil.
Yeah, I don't think I said a number I know I didn't. So I don't know if I misheard the young lady say she disagreed with it, but I didn't give a number.
Okay, maybe
I agree with what you said.
Oh, she said she agreed with you.
Yeah, okay. I didn't thought I heard you correctly. Great.
Okay. Well, we got some people that's going to start commenting. I see some stuff coming in. 3.5 million to start. But we'll roll into the next question because I want to kick the conversation off and get going. There's a couple of questions that we really need to answer. So now that we talked about the cash amount, the reason why I did that first is because I want to get the numbers out there. The next thing is the big question is who should pay these reparations? Should it be state or federal? What does it look like from you all? Who should be paying this to our communities? And we'll start off with.
So I'll just say that it needs to be a federal it needs to be a federal mandate, because like we saw with, COVID, which for whatever reason, it still baffles me. And maybe I should do my due diligence and see what's going on with California, really. But hearing Governor Newsom, all those several cries for help for federal funding during COVID last year, that's got to be unnerving. So I would definitely want us to focus on, getting funds federally, even though the state of California is presumably, I think, if it were a country on its own, I think like the 5th or 6th wealthiest country in the world. But that 5th or 6th country, that's 5th or 6th wealthiest country in the world, was crying and begging for COVID relief from the federal government. So I think we should go, leapfrog directly over California, focus on federal reparations, but also recognize that if California is willing to offer some form of reparations to California residents of American descendants of slavery, then we're open to receiving that as well. But again, just federal. It should be a federal mandate, and the people who should be paying it are the citizens of the United States. If immigrants aren't interested anymore in coming here because they have to pay American descendants of slavery the debt that's owed to us, then that's their problem. But they're okay with paying taxes to fund Israel, right? They're okay with paying taxes to fund other foreign countries that have nothing to do with everyday life of American citizenship here, or very loosely have relevance to what it's like to have American citizenship here. So if we're going to be combating the naysayers who are let's say immigrant, and then also the people who are diehard patriots still flying the Confederate flag, which is quite frankly treasonous, I think we should really just focus on saying that all citizens minus the American descendants of slavery should be paying reparations. And I would even argue that there are some Native Americans who should be paying for reparations. I don't know, a lot of people know this, but constitutionally, they do not pay taxes. They have not paid taxes for a very long time. They have monopolies on casinos in places where casinos are outlawed statewide. So, these are situations where, they could be paying us if we wanted to go for Native Americans. I say we ignore that situation, but just recognize that it's there. We can also go for corporations. Every corporation has their handprints, their paws on slavery by some degree, right? So if we have, for example, if we had a corporation like Tesla, for example, which is artificially inflated and is an example of Elon Musk doing a lot of Bernie Madoff trickery anyway with his Ponzi scheme. If we say, okay, Tesla and companies like Tesla are responsible for paying 1% of its revenue or perceived revenue, or whatever we decide to do it. I wouldn't put 1% on the profits. I put 1% on the revenue, for example. That's just an arbitrary figure. Also, it could be 3%, it'd be 4%, whatever. That revenue would go towards funding American descendants of slavery, and that would actually mitigate any issues that private citizens have with paying reparations. Corporations are having to pay it anyway after having received so much corporate welfare all these years. I think that a lot of private citizens wouldn't have an issue with us receiving reparations that way.
Yeah, I think that's facts. I agree with you on there. I think it should be federally, state, and local, because all three entities have impacted the African people as well as the businesses, because we know during the slave trade, a lot of these financial institutions gained off slavery as well. We talk about the banks, all of that. So I think definitely it's federal, state, federal, and local. But I also think we do need to add those corporations in there, because you got places like Chase and Wells Fargo, Bank of America, and a lot of these large financial institutions that gain many, many millions of dollars in profits off the backs of our people here in this country. So I'm glad you threw that out there. Rico, you want to add? Go ahead, Tony.
I want to add two things. One, not only should the businesses here do it, but slavery was an international endeavor. So they have those crown jewels, different places that belong to us. So I think we also should add that to the list. And then coming down local, I have no problem going after private citizens. There's land grants and trustees or whatever we could look into, see who stole what from us and get it back from them. So definitely go federal. San Francisco has the commission, so they're looking at it locally here, but the teeth will be federal, but international also, because a lot of corporations are international.
Yeah, they definitely need to start with federal, and then also when you start looking at corporations, they need to unveil and add something in reparations about Black people being put in prison, because these companies are still to this day making money off of this. Your sentences are 10, 20 years for having a little bit of marijuana, but you got people over here killing. George Floyd getting 22 years. He's only going to do probably 7 or 10 years. So they need to start with the money with the federal, and then go on straight immediately over to the legal criminal system, because that has been a total travesty over the years. Of Black families have suffered tremendously from having people locked up, charges put on them, time in prison, where these families just pretty much were put on the street because you had a breadwinner going to prison for something they should have never been locked up all them years for anyway.
Most definitely. Rico, you want to go ahead and jump in there?
Yeah, no, I agree with everyone. I think definitely we should definitely start with the federal government and making sure that they're paid their diligence. Also, I would say a corporation tax that's mandated as a corporation tax, where all the corporations that are the multi-trillion and billionaires, that 1% that have profited off of slavery, pays into the reparation fund. That is separate from the federal government reparations, but it's a corporate tax also. Then also when we look at cities, mandating cities to be able to create a reparation package, which is separate from cash payment, which it'll be kind of more geared towards higher education, the justice system, juvenile justice system, things like that. That's how I kind of see it. So I would kind of go more in that direction. Federal government, then creating a reparation tax on all corporations, and then also looking at our local government and figuring out what is a reparation package that's outside of actual cash payment.
Man, definitely, that's deep. Jamil, you want to go, or Michaela? Go ahead, Jamil. You want to go? Okay, Michaela, you want to say something?
Yeah, I do think the federal should be first, and once the federal mandates that that the reparations being paid is required, then we could say, okay, all the corporations that have benefited from like having people who were African American work for them could actually put aside money into the reparation fund, and then after that, like, then the state can figure out, how they want to deal with the reparation fund.
Definitely. I think that's, all very important stuff. And I think also, locally is very big too, because in San Francisco, there's certain parts and things that taking place, in the Sutro Hills and different, where Blacks are not even allowed to buy homes in those areas. So definitely, this conversation is going to continue to get better as we get through it. The reparations, when we start talking about reparations, a lot of pushback come from people. One of the big things that we always hear sometimes from our allies or sometimes white folks is, why should we pay reparations when this was something that happened in the past? I didn't personally do it, but they benefit from it. And I always try to explain that to them, like, one, your ancestors, whatever it was, you benefit off it, and they don't understand that. And I think a lot of times people say, well, when we talk about reparations, you're just really talking about white guilt. And I think it's more of American as a country, America as a country issue, more than white guilt, that we have to make this. But how do we in solidarity work with everybody to really advocate and put this into place? Because it's more than just money. There's a legislative piece of it that has to be written in as well to fix these issues. But I think, Asia, you'll be good to start off this part about what that legislatively look like. Because I think it's 4 components when we talk about a reparation. I think Rico hit it, right? So we have, they're definitely a cash or a monetary piece of it, right? There's an educational piece to it. There's a mental health component to it. And then there's an education component that we really need to hone in when we talk about reparations, because I think that's where the major impact that's really taking place. And I think, we just have to really talk about it and call it what it is. But AJ, if you want to kick it off and talk about that, or Rico, go ahead. Rico want to say something. Go ahead, Rico.
No, I was just saying I'll go next after her. I was just raising my. I was doing cool. I'm raising my hand.
Okay, go ahead, AJ.
Yeah, so one thing that I think legislatively we need to focus on is that reparations is not something we really need to focus on the economical piece. When we go to if you look at tort law, if you're going to court for a civil lawsuit and you want to be made whole again, right? You don't, not to my knowledge, you don't go to the court requesting mental health and education, expenses. You go for the jugular. You get the money. You get the land, you get the terms that make sense for that. And then if you want all the other periphery things, like, okay, for, maybe you get like some sort of discount or some sort of tax credit for mental health, and you get to choose who your mental health provider is. You shouldn't have to go through, a white mental health servicer. You should be able to go to, someone like Queen, I'm calling her Queenan because I can't see her name up here. You should be able to go to somebody like Queenan who has, whatever certification our community deems is a qualifier for what is going to fix us or repair us. We need to talk about those terms in a more contract law basis. But for now, focusing again on what's going to make us whole again is if we were going to court for a civil lawsuit, we're not going to go to the judge and say, hey, we need mental health, assistance. Hey, we need education expenses. No, you get the money. You get the terms of what the money looks like. Okay, are you paying me quarterly? Are you paying me annually? Are you paying me monthly? Is it tax free? Like I think someone mentioned, I think and I forget, I think it's Kandori, like, is it tax free? We need to be discussing that. Everything else is noise, and a lot of people don't recognize that because, again, a lot of us aren't privy to what happens in court to make people whole again when a person or an entity has done some sort of harm to that private citizen. The United States government and its corporations and its citizens has done a harm to American descendants of slavery, and it's an ongoing harm. And so to rectify that ongoing harm, we're going to focus on economical solutions. Money, I know people, we've sort of been conditioned and indoctrinated to believe that money doesn't give us happiness. I beg to differ. When you have money, you have options. You can choose where you live. You can either live, if you're in Hollywood Boulevard in LA, you can live sleeping on the concrete, because you have no money, or because you have money, you can get your home in San Francisco. You can have your townhouse, you can have your duplex where you can get passive income because you're renting out to another person. So we need to really stop trying to, I think we really need to decondition ourselves from discussing money and discussing other financial instruments or tools such as, real estate, what tax efficiency methods look right. We need to really focus on that. Everything else, again, is noise. You can pay for all those other things when you have that access to capital and the right tools and services that will buffer your financial power. One of the things I want to recommend people read, if you can, I think Charlie Munger, who's Warren Buffett's right-hand man at Berkshire Hathaway, I think Charlie Munger has a book. It's in PDF form, I believe, and I think it's Poor Charlie's Almanac. And one of the things he goes into detail about is the power of incentives. What's wrong with our entire country and our world is incentives. We have incentivized people to continue the corporate engine that ruins American descendants of slavery's lives, right? We have to now disincentivize people from doing the things that have ruined our lives. So one of the things that disincentivizes them is if they have to pay to play. Corporations who have to pay to play, off the rip, they know they have to pay, a certain tax percentage to pay American descendants of slavery. These are the things that we need to be discussing, again, and not to sound like a broken record, discussing mental health, you don't need to do that. That is something that will come once you have the access to capital. You can pay whoever you want to help you with your mental health. You can pay your hairstylist an extra $100 if you're sitting in her chair because you know she's playing, you know, friends, hairstylists, therapists, all of that, if you want to do that, but you get your access to capital first.
I hear you. I agree, but I respectfully disagree. You know, this is both sides of the conversation. The reason why I'm going to say this, because there's two things going to happen. Once we get reparations, it's going to be a lot of things taken from us, right? So we know right now there's programs and things in place to help impact our community. You know, subsidies are all across, right? So you got Section 8, you got food stamps, to where, you know, things that help support programs for parents, childcare. The reason why I say that is, okay, if you get these reparations, the cost of everything is going to increase, right? We already have a problem in our community when it comes to mental health. And the reason why I say that should be a part of it, because we need free access to deal with the trauma that's impacted our people, not only from the time of the enslavement, but we're talking about currently when we're dealing with all the issues that compact us together, gun violence, the stuff that's going on in our community. We need those mental health services. I think that needs to be part of the reparations. I have to put that out there because I think that is a big part of it. Because even if you give people money, they're not going to be able to. They're not going to go. If they're not going now, give them some money. Ain't going to give them the mental health that they need. So I want to put. I want to put that out there.
Let me just say this. We are not taking on the white patriarchal parenting role, okay? It is not our business to tell people how they're going to spend their money, okay? If we, like, for example, if we're getting cash payments monthly, we have a right to mess up our money that first few months because we haven't gone and gotten our mental health checks, okay? This is, if you read the book, what is it? The Richest Man in Babylon. You know, part of learning financial literacy is having multiple opportunities to mess up your money. Okay. We don't need to be focusing on, all right, well, the people who fucked up the minds of Black people should then be responsible for helping us put our minds back together. I'm not interested in that. I'm not interested in seeking mental health services from people who went out of their way to do what they did to us. Okay. Again, like I said, if you want to figure out how you're going to broker a deal between, you know, your spiritual healer who happens to be Black, who doesn't have a license that fits into the mold of white society of practicing, you know, mental health services, then by all means, you strike up that deal with them. But for us to be sitting here and saying, hey, please, massa, please help us figure out how to unfuck our minds. Like, I'm not doing that. And I don't think we need to be doing that. I think we need to be really focusing on getting that money.
So I agree with you. The money is a big part. You know, I spoke about mental health, but health is important as well. And I think we could cover it. I mean, I'm talking about mental health, but I think health in general, it needs to be part of that reparation. Our people right now are so affected from the healthcare system. So again, I hear you.
I get that. I would just prefer, if we're going to talk about the mental health or the health, then it needs to be, we have the option to go to whomever we want to go to. I don't want them saying you have to go to this service provider, because all you're doing is helping them take our dollars and putting it back into their pockets. That's why I said we need to stop asking for that. If we're going to talk about those terms, we're talking about, okay, if I want to go to a health provider, it's the provider I deem worthy of my services. Does that make sense?
I definitely hear you. I got a question to follow up, but I want to move it along. But I got a question to follow up for you after that. But Rico, you want to say something, or Jamil? I seen his hand up.
I mean, I would say that it's an and also, right? Like, so what Aisha is saying is that when we talk about reparation, we talk about a cash payment, it creates, right? It creates something for us, right? Where we are now able to create different pipelines for ourselves. So I think that when we really look at systemically what has happened to the African-American community, when we look at healthcare, we look at all these different systems that are against us, right? And if we get cash payment, it gives us an opportunity, right? And this is the biggest opportunity. Forget the money, but the money is the most important. So when we say, oh, we got a cash payment and now we can create our own private schools, now we can push our own type of education, right? Because now we ain't saying, because we've been saying this for years. I'm 40 years old, and my whole life I've heard education, 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 and only the education system has pushed our children into a pipeline to prison, right? But we still say it. Black people has been conditioned to say, get education. to go look for the pipeline. That's one. And then for two, to become a slave, right? When we know that naturally we are people who are more like bosses, right? Like our mindset is more geared towards independence, and we want to be able to create and be able to do what we do naturally. And I think that with this funding, we can create our own pipelines, right? Because now we have a conglomerate of African Americans who have a form of wealth. Now we can invest in our own private schools. Now we can create our own pipelines for entrepreneurship. Now we can create our own wellness centers. We can create our own Black Department of Public Health, right? Towards we 100% focus on the Black mindset. Now we have both sides of the conversation, which is the new NBC for Black people, right? You see what I'm saying? So like, we got to stop categorizing it and putting it all over the place. The number one goal is economic empowerment. And with economic empowerment, it actually creates the other bubbles for us to be able to support whatever other needs that we may have. Aisha is, in my opinion, is right. Why go towards or go to the slave master who have strategically created all these systems that has been against us? We can say every department, everywhere we look in life, it is systemically against us. Even when we look at Black Americans who have adopted the white supremacist mindset, right? We even have Black folks who do that, right? Or have that mindset. If it's all over and everywhere around us, the only way to dismantle it is to create our own. And if we don't create our own and we continue to go within this narrative, because John, we talk about it all the time. We say mental health, mental health, mental health, mental health. Billions and billions of dollars is funneled into Black mental health. How many young people do you know who get real mental health services? For real, for real. I don't know too many. I know there are some out there, and I know that there's people like Tony who is educating the community on a holistic approach of wellness and what wellness really, really is in our community. But it's a few in between. I've studied a lot of stuff, and when I study it and we look at the framework of everything, lawyers, doctors, mental health, policing, anything, the framework is architect under white supremacy. And if we don't dismantle that through this economic empowerment, we'll end up in the same circle. So forget what they're going to spend it on. So it's really about how are we going to create our own frame for how we want to be. It's like with Black Wall Street. The reason why it was successful because they created their own. They didn't go to no one. They said, I'm going to do this and we're going to do this on our own. And that's why they were successful. That's why they had all them schools. That's why they had them banks. That's why they had their hospital. When you go to Chinatown in San Francisco, they have their own Chinese hospital. They do. They have a Chinese hospital there. I didn't even know it until I'm like, what is that? Oh, that's the Chinese hospital. Oh, I never knew that. Where's the Black hospital? You know what I'm saying? So I think like looking at it in that perspective, because it's an and also. What everyone is saying is right, but how do we put it all as one package and not say, oh no, we need reparations as education? It is, but first we got to find out what the money look like so that we can create our own institutions and start educating our own folks, because we know that even with the school systems, it was geared towards helping white women become independent from their partners. As we look at it from the system right now, it's mostly white women teachers who educate our students, our children, and they don't have a clue. So, I mean, that's how I kind of view it. I don't know about nobody else.
Rico, here's the pushback. If Black folks in America spend over $3 trillion today, why haven't we did it then? Because that's the real question. I'm tired of seeing how much we spend. And if we get this money, we just need to get the courage to get into the field.
You need the courage to get into the field.
Can I just address that really quickly? I hate that figure.
Oh, hold on. Let's try to do it one at a time real quick. Hold on. So who's that speaking?
You addressed it. You addressed it me, so I wanted to kind of.
Okay, go ahead, Rico.
So I mean, we do so we are the number one consumers of a lot, right? But the consumption that we consume in is piecemeal, right? So it's not just like if I had 2.5 million, my thought process of investment and being able to continue my what wealth might look like for me and my family will totally change compared to the slave mentality of oh, I'm getting piecemealed. I'm working every single day. I got to do this. I got to do that. So I think like part of it, John, is and the pushback, and I understand that pushback, but like when we look at it, if we as a nation of people had some form of wealth, right? Now we'll rise on the totem pole. Because when we look at national totem poles and races of people, we like in the bottom percentile. So now we'll rise as a nation of people, and we'll be able to start thinking and looking a little bit differently. During the pandemic is the perfect example of us coming together. I think that spoke volumes to what can possibly happen. Even though I've seen people survive off that little stimulus or whatever, but like really, if we really look at it and the opportunities that was created and the people who created those opportunities, the innovation that happened during the pandemic, like I know people who was like working 24 hours a day, like trying to bring my home finances to their family, who now own their own business and now have a different way of thinking. So I think, John, like I know that there's pushback for us that, but that's not honestly, it's not my business about with that part, because whatever they spend their money on is what it's going to be. But I think like it will help give young people, because my son, he wants to be a Fortune 500 business owner. My daughter owns her own glitter Kisses cosmetic line. With 2.5 million of her own, she would be able now to create the actual business that she actually wants, to create this chain of lip gloss that she actually want to do, right? So, and I think that that's what happened with other ethnicities, is their privilege allowed them access, right? So we don't have that same access, so we always is the consumer. But when you have access, it changes the narrative. So, John, now you can say, yo, oh, my grandbaby want to be this, that 50,000 that Steve Jobs and all these folks' parents gave them, we can give that, right? And now our children can now be the next Amazon or the next, I don't know, but I'm just saying, you know what I mean? Like that's how I kind of view it. I view it differently because we're not never giving them opportunities, so we stay the consumer. But when we get the opportunity, now we can change that narrative and actually become the person who is providing the actual service, because they steal everything we do, right? And then we become the consumer of our own thought and our own idea. You see what I'm saying? So we just got to figure that part out.
Perfect.
I'm going to add
perfect way to address that pushback. Ms. Tony, before you go, Jamil had his hand up real quick, and then we'll go to you, and then Michaela, then Kadori.
Yeah, I just want to say, I'm not going to preach to the choir here, but Michaela, I hope I said her name right, is right. And also, I just want to say that we are the only people probably on the planet that has a conversation about why we should not receive money. This would not happen anywhere else. It's beyond bad. Number one. Number two, the issue is reparations. The issue is money. It's not basketball. It's not soccer. It's not saving the whales. It's not saving the trees. If that's what you're into, fine. But that's not what the issue is. The issue is money. And money, in case anybody don't get this by now, is how we keep score. Money is how America keeps score, period. It's not mental health. It's not religion. It's not fashion. It's money. So the young lady is right. Rico said it's a and, but it's not in this conversation. It shouldn't be in the conversation. The Asians are the smallest group and are economic powerhouses. Do you think it's because they're saying, never mind, we don't want the money, because those Asians over there are just going to get on opiates and blow the money? I mean, just to put our conversation in context, do you think they care? So, the conversation about, and this is running rampant, this talk about what Black people are going to do. First of all, everybody can't go. We only need a few good men and women for Black economic empowerment. Half of these people aren't coming anyway. Let them buy shoes, Jordan, who cares? So we need to focus and get out of all these other areas and deal with the one thing that we're here for. We as Black people don't know anything about money, which is why we talk this way. The Jews, the Asians, the Arabs, the Indians from India, they don't have this conversation. No one argues about money, about not getting it. They kill and die behind how much, because they understand. We're the only group that's doing this. So I won't go any further other than to say all those other issues, no one's saying that they're not important. With the sister and myself and Rico in some regards and others, the 15% of us, I'd say 80 of them are just out there talking this way. But the 15 that are not, those are only 15 that count. And those are only 15 we need. Because we understand, you give us the money, we'll deal with mental health. You give us the money, we'll deal with the prison industrial complex. You give us the money, we'll deal with everything else. That's what money does. So we can get out of having all these other conversations when you're on a platform to talk about money. That's the group of people I want to be next to. Mm-hmm. That's the people I want to sit with. Thank you.
Real talk. I appreciate you dropping them jewels, brother. Michaela, did you want to say something? And then Miss Tony.
Yes, I believe that, like, as African Americans, we need to take the leadership position. So anytime we're offered an opportunity to be a leader, we just do it. That way, people in the community can see, like, hey, they're being leaders, they're inspiring us, and they're also helping society.
Okay, very powerful. Miss Tony, you want to go ahead and jump in there?
Right. I want to agree with Jamel's 100% focus on the money. And then even what Asia talked about, going to the courts. But with any strategy, I believe in grassroots community organizing also, because there's power in numbers. So when you have the court case going on, and you have people out in the street doing rallies or forums or doing whatever, to me, that's like more powerful. You can't just take it to the court because they still run the courts. They still get to interpret what they want to interpret through whether it's amendment, the constitutions, But when we get together and get in the streets and find out who our allies are, because some courts are more of an ally than others. So just go back to simple American government, see how it works, hit them there. And why not a nice old boycott? Add a little boycott to it. Money talks. And when we take our money away from them, then they listen to us. Just wanted to add that.
I just want to clarify really quickly. Tony, thank you for adding a point. But when I mentioned the court system, I wasn't saying that we should go to the court system to rectify anything. I was using the court system as an analogy for when we do go to court to make ourselves whole. Our attorney doesn't say, hey, judge, I need you to fix my mental health, issues for my client. Hey, judge, I need you to take care of the education for my client. I was just using that as an example of, like, the priority in the court system is getting the money, and what are the terms of how you're getting that money and how much it is.
I agree 100% that the focus needs to be laser focused on the money. All this other shit needs to just not even come up, because this is how we get confused, and this is what they want. They want confusion. Trust me, I've been working around white people for years, and by me being a nurse, I have had the privilege of working with every single race of people probably on the planet between nurses and doctors. And what Jamel said was absolutely right. They not discussing about no damn money because they already got the money. They already know how they got everything packaged up, and they're definitely not saying don't give the money to their people. You know, I've been in homes of millionaires who are white people, and they got kids fucked up on drugs, and they're millionaires. So I really don't give a shit what they do with the money. Give the money out. Everybody can't go. Some of them may kill themselves with the money and overdose on drugs. I'm sorry about that, but I'm not going to let that stop us from getting the money. That's priority. Everything else, we can fix it after that. You can fix your mental health because you got money, money talk. Money does all sorts of things. And the ones of us who understand it, we will build empires, and we will be able to build schools and teach our kids our history, because this educational system in America is completely fucked up. And I have a college degree. I personally did not tell my kids to go to college. I told them to start businesses, and that's what they did. They didn't go. You know, of course, if you want to be a nurse or a doctor, you got to go. But all these other things you're going for, you better out telling your kids to start a business, because there's a chance that that business can make them millions. And that's how we do generational wealth. You're not going to be a millionaire on these jobs. You're only going to make $60, $70, $80, $100,000 a year. You'll work there forever. And maybe all those years you'll be a millionaire. But if they start their business, there's a greater chance of them becoming a millionaire and having generational wealth than talking about going in a college degree. So keep it on the money. All the other stuff can come after that. Stay laser focused on the money. That's it.
Definitely. I want to go.
It's going to be this quick. So I think in context, I always say the and also part is only because there are people who are mentally, they just can't stay focused. And that is what it is. So you got to create and give them the narrative that it's the and also, because the money we already know is the key to the success. So you say the and also to let them know, hey, look, when we get the money, if you want wellness, we're going to create our own wellness institutions. If you want whatever, we're going to create it for ourselves. If we want our own banks, we're going to create it ourselves. Because if we don't do that, if we don't say the and also, we'll have a whole clique talking about mental health. We'll have a whole clique talking about stuff that's going to lose focus. And we know as a people, sometimes we can't stay focused. So I just say the and also, so that folks that are out there listening, the money is going to be targeted towards what you want to do. So get off of your high horse talking about, no, we don't, people don't need money. We need education. We need this and that. I'm not saying that we need that. I'm saying we need cash payment to create those opportunities for ourselves. So that's why I always say the and also. So the folks that's out there who's losing focus and don't want to see black people with nothing, and they black too, can stay focused on the issue at hand, is that we need cash payment only. And then we can create our own institutions. I know there's some amazing black doctors, black heart surgeons, that if we build it, our people will come and we'll have our own institution. So,
man, that's deep, man. I want to say shout out to our guys. Silent Truth. Hold on, who's that?
If I may, just to clean up the.
Go ahead, Asia.
So there's two separate conversations, right, Rico? So there's a conversation you have when you go to the negotiation table with the party that can pay you the money, right? With that conversation, we don't, the and also is just incredibly superfluous. We don't need to do, okay, we need money and also. If you're trying to talk the separate conversation amongst our people, then I would say maybe you, instead of saying and also, it's as a result, you can get X, Y, and Z, so that you keep them laser focused on the money. And with that, and I know it might seem like I'm just, being, petty or whatever, just by picking the words apart. But it's very important. It's very important if we're trying to make sure our people are focused, right? We don't want them putting equal weight on the priority, right? We don't want them putting equal weight on, money and education and mental health and whatever the hell else they got going on in their head, right? We want it to be, we need this money, and as a result of getting this money, you will get blah, 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 fucking blah, right? I think that's better language to keep our people focused.
And I 100% agree. But the and also, it only validates. I might not even agree, but I say and also, so I can validate the person's feelings and what they're saying. So even if I don't agree, because I 100% agree with what you're saying. I mean, I 100% agree. I only say and also so the person who's saying it can feel like Rico heard him and Rico knew exactly what they were saying. That's why I'm saying and also. And also, we agree. That's it. But I agree with you also. I do. I agree. Like, I agree that we should keep them laser focused, and sometimes in language, we do got to figure out how we say it to people. But me personally, in talking to people, I like to always validate what they're saying. So because they can go rogue at any point if we're not validating feelings and validating what people are saying, because they can feel like, oh, no one hear me or no one's listening. So I always say, and also, like, okay, what we're saying we know is 100% important, and what you're saying is important. That's why I say and also, just to say you're important. What you're saying is important, and what I'm saying is important. But you're right. It is two different conversations with two different people. I agree with you though.
So I'm gonna just say this: powerful stuff. That's why we have both sides of the conversation. I like both of you guys' point. We do need to stay focused on the money, but I'm always thinking futuristic because I'm part of our people, the community, like everyone else in here, and I'm always thinking about sustainability. Even if we got 2.5 or $10 million, is it really sustainable for the future? Some people, yeah, they'll be able to handle that and make sure that financial sustainability or that generational wealth is there. But I always have to think down the line, and I'm always trying to think both sides of it. So yes, we need to stay focused on money, but I also want to hit on those areas in the future, because I'm always thinking about potentially what can happen and how do we change that so that we can have sustainability in the future with education, financial literacy, mental health, those type of things. I'm going to keep that out there because over time, if we don't handle it right or however, I'm agreeing with all you. I don't care. I'm at this point when we talk about reparations. I don't care what people do with their money, right? But I think as a community leader, our elected officials, we have to also, when we talk in reparations, really be strategic and understand the sustainability part and making sure that we cover all areas. You know, we don't want to just come out here shooting for the cash, but we're not thinking about the back end because, hey, you give everybody $2.5 million and then the system's going to increase all of the bridge tolls, the gas. You get what I'm saying? So it's always going to be some trickery, and that's just what I want everybody to get. I'm not saying that my perspective is right or my opinion is right, but I also want to think about the trickery that's been played on our people for hundreds and hundreds of years. So every time we're given something, there's always these blocks and these intersections that's been put in there to make us U-turn and go back to where it originally was, just in a different format. So I definitely just want to put that out there and make sure that we also understand about the sustainability piece. Moving forward, yes, I'm all for the money. We have to get the money in the people's hand. We're looking at our people. Our people are in desire, need of money. I agree with you. But we also have to be responsible and think about the sustainability part moving ahead in the future. Asia, 1 second before you go. Jamil had his hand up before you, and then we'll move it to you next. Go ahead, Jamil.
So I think it was Asia, and if she's going next, that's fine. I think it was her or it was the other sister that just said real brief that although all those other things are valid, I think what they are articulating, as well as myself, is that the danger in speaking about those things while you're talking about money is the benefit to those who don't want to give it to us already. It's not that it's not important, and it's not that it doesn't have a place. But when you talk about trickery, that's one you might not factor in. You might not see it coming. If I don't want to pay you, that's good material you just gave me. And I can run with that. And I can put it on every platform, and I can get people to start thinking that way. Now all of a sudden, we're off the money. So I just want to share that little bit to say this. It has nothing to do with you being wrong or we believing those people aren't important. I got a disability. I need free health. I mean, I have a reason to be concerned about medical reparations of all people, but I wouldn't talk about that because the issue isn't medical. It's money. Give me the money. I'm gonna deal with my medical. I don't want to confuse people. I don't want to give them material to say, see, that's right. We should not talk about that. We should talk about how we're going to deal with what the people are going to do when they get it. Now we're off the money. Thank you.
So John, I had already addressed how you avoid said trickery and making sure that there's sustainability in getting the money. When I said early in the discussion that we would want, first off, we don't want to name our price, right? It's like rule number one in negotiation. Don't name your price first. Okay. Second rule that's more relevant to this negotiation is we want our money tied to the consumer price index or whatever index is determined in deciding what the cost of living is. And as that cost of living rises, you know, the money that we're owed will rise with that consumer price index. A good example of that idea would be if we're negotiating points on the deal and not this number that everybody's so fascinated with. Everybody's like, oh, I want 2.5 million. Oh, I want 4 million. Or I want, you know, somebody mentioned, I think 1 billion or 2 billion each. Focus on the points of the deal. What that means is if you say instead, we want 2% of Corporation A's revenue, right? Annually or monthly or whatever you decide the terms are. That means your money your monthly payment could be, you know, whatever it is, 25. I'm just making up numbers here. It could be $2,500 in January, and it could be $3,600 in March after it just got released. They had a very good earnings quarter, you know. So I want us to just stop getting trapped into this idea that you need this number. You know, we need the sustainability portion is when you tie your money to points on the deal, as if we're talking about. I think Zendaya would be a good example of this. I think she did something recently where they had a production for a movie, and instead of saying, you know, we want to be paid X amount of dollars, which is what we're all doing right now, right? She said, and I'm describing it in layman's terms so people can understand what I'm talking about. She said that she wanted her team of people to get a certain percentage of the revenue. I believe the gross revenue or the profits. I forget which one it was. Most likely it was the profits. And so when you have that, that means, let's say your stylist could have lowballed herself by saying, I want to be paid $10,000 for the 6 weeks that I'm going to be doing your hair, Zendaya. Instead, it's like, okay, well, if you get 1% of the earnings or whatever they decide that number, that metric is going to be, now she's, if the movie has made, you know, several millions of dollars, now she has $300,000 or whatever that situation could be. And again, these are arbitrary figures. I want our minds to start working that way. Let's stop focusing on this fixed number of what reparations means. This one-time payment, or let's just start really thinking about what would it mean to be the bank. I think that's the best way for us to think of it. How do we make ourselves the bank, right? If we want corporations to have to pay to play to do business in this country and to do business as an American company internationally, what do they need to pay us? You know, annually, monthly, whatever we decide the terms are. And when we decide instead in terms of percentages, I think that's how we outsmart. That's the first step we can do to outsmart the tricksters who will come up with a way to put the money back into their pockets. So we don't have to worry about those things when we're not focused on a fixed number, but we're focused on a variable number of how we're going to get our money and make sure that we have that sustainability multi-generationally, if that makes sense.
So let me say this. I don't agree with that variable thing. I want a fixed rate, right? Variable gives them too many options. And the reason why we need to call our number, I'm going to tell you why we call it a number. Okay, we got a number of people that's going to be watching, elected officials. We got Rico here, different people that's on reparation committees across this country. We have to say a number, and this is why. Okay, we just had Tulsa, 100-year anniversary of Tulsa, Oklahoma a couple of weeks ago. Some of the survivors who survived Tulsa, Oklahoma was interviewed. Okay, the city of Tulsa, Oklahoma only offered her $100,000. And they denied that. You see what I'm saying? $100,000. But when you go look at the research right now, Black Wall Street would have been worth about $3 to $5 trillion. Okay, we can't go in there playing with these people saying, "You tell me." Y'all just talked about it earlier. Why would you? That's like going in and saying, "Master, you tell me what I'm worth." I'm not with that. I'm doing my own research. I'm checking the numbers. I'm seeing it. And I want them to know this is what we want. So while y'all sitting there thinking about what reparations look like, this is what we want to see. If it's less or more, hey, we want to let them know what we want, because again, $100,000 is unacceptable to people in Tulsa, Oklahoma, who lost generations of wealth. They're saying $3 to $5 trillion, but I'm thinking like, man, it's probably more than that. If you really look at the value, what it brings to the culture, to our people, is priceless. But $100,000 I felt was very disrespectful, slap in the face to people who went through that. So again, we need to say a price. We need to have a number collectively, because again, it doesn't work if we got 20 different people saying this and that.
Absolutely not. John, I apologize. I know this is your show. I'm gonna have to interrupt you because again, you're going down that rabbit hole when I tried to help steer you in the right direction. We're talking about us treating ourselves. We are the bank, okay? When you go to your bank and you want a credit card, do they give you a fixed APR or do they give themselves room to give a variable rate so that they can say, you know what? We had a hard 6 months. Let's just charge these guys like an extra 2% just because we feel like it. If we start taking on the mentality of these banks, right? We win. We absolutely win. We don't want them to have a fixed rate of what they pay us. We want it variable. If they sneeze in the wrong direction, if they cough something racist, I want us to be able to say, hey, we got that wiggle room to give them. We can collect an extra 2%. And I'm using that as a facetious example, right? But we need to start gearing our minds toward we are the bank. We are the people who were owed a debt, right? If you're trying to get a mortgage on a home, who do you have to pay? You have to pay a bank. That is a debt owed to the bank. You do not own your home. You do not own your home until you pay off your debt to that bank. We are the bank now. I want us to focus on that. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense, and that's what we're here for. We can agree to disagree, but again, the variable rate, if the bank is paying 10% because the economy is doing good and they making money, but what happens when they say, oh, it's 0%? There's not enough coming in, so now we'll give you 0% on this variable. I take the fixed amount, give me my money, let me move my people forward. I don't have time. I hear what you said, but I'm just telling you. I'm telling you, I want the fixed amount. I want to get it to my people. I want to get it in their pocket and let them start thriving. But we can agree to disagree, not start an argument. But Miss Tony was trying to jump in. Go ahead, Miss Tony, and jump in.
I was just saying, I saw it go across that corporations are into trickery also, because they go bankrupt, they restructure, they can just sell it to their child under a different name. And I use an example. I grew up in Kentucky, and Philip Morris did cigarettes. They saw that cigarettes was going down a little bit, so they got into food, they got into sodas, they got into other areas where they can make their money. So I do believe we need to attack them. We also know that they may be 100 years ahead of us and bob and weave in a different direction. And I also want to agree with what Rico's saying is when we focus on the money, we still got to do that both and other stuff, because I do lose focus. I'm a Gemini, and I'm not going to feel bad because I lose focus, because that means we might need to focus on something else too. And I give an example. When we build this, and I'm talking about the Black nation in San Francisco and beyond, we do need to worry about the education and mental health, financial literacy, because what they say, a fool and their money are soon parted. So, yes, focus on the money, but we need that plan A, B, C, D for when they pivot, we have to pivot. Or dismantle it all. Why not dismantle it all? I mean, how hard do we want to go to get our reparations? And we are big consumers. Quit being big consumers. I personally shop on 3rd Street. I can't get everything on 3rd Street. I shop on 3rd Street. I go to Fillmore when I can. Then I go other places. So it's more than just reparations. We also have to build our own nation. That's all.
Definitely. Kadora, you wanted to say something, then Rico?
We do have to build our own. I'm 100% for that. And then with that being said, also you have to, we really have to accept as a race that some of these people ain't gonna make it. I mean, I want to save everybody, but you know, people have really got to save themselves first. Yeah, we need people to get mental health, but some of these people, they don't want to listen, you know, and you can't lose yourself and lose what your purpose is and what you're supposed to be doing with your money, building an empire and changing our race, trying to save a few over here. I'll try my best, but guess what? You have to understand some of these people don't want to be saved. And you'll kill yourself trying to save them. And that's just a fact. You know, at some point we got to understand that some of these people ain't gonna make it. with the reparations or not, they just not. So we just have to be willing to accept that some of them just don't want to do right. That's just it.
Facts. Jamil, you wanted to jump in there, or Michaela? I couldn't see if she. Oh, nope. Oh,
Yeah,
Rico.
in the education system, not everyone learns the same. So we already know the education system has disadvantaged us, especially as a people. And my thing is this: you need to consider different people have different learning styles. So if you don't understand how a person learns, you can't teach a person. So that's all I gotta say.
Definitely. It's an open conversation. But Rico, go ahead, jump in there.
I mean, I just have a question. So when do we address? Okay, so we know that it's two conversations, right? And we got to have a conversation with the court, right? And we telling the court, hey, look, this is what we want, and we're not mentioning the mental health and all that stuff. So when do we have the conversation with Black America so that way we can keep folks focused? Do that come first, or do the court go first? I mean, it is a question I would like to know. Just people, Aisha, your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's a good question. It's an ongoing process, really. There's no, we're doing one during phase one and then the other is in phase two. It's about checking people as they say things that are silly, like every time they say something that has nothing to do with, cash reparations or anything that's a financial instrument that could help, forge our path forward and out of the complete mess that we're in right now. Anything that has nothing to do with, like, we just check it as soon as we hear it, whether you're at, the barbershop, whether you're at, on the elevator, whether you're waiting in line at a grocery store. As soon as you hear one of us say something like, oh, well, we need X, Y, and Z that has nothing to do with financial instruments that'll get them X, Y, and Z. You check them, you say why you're checking them, and however you need to do it, however you need to frame it is up to you. I make sure that I read the room. Sometimes I don't read the room so well, and I just get straight to the point. So that's something I'm working on. But Rico, you sound like the person who is very good at, figuring out how someone wants something to be packaged for them so that it's palatable for them. And you do that. But it's always going to be an ongoing process. People who are writers, if you're a writer, you know that writing is all about rewriting. So if you put your mind in that place, just always know that you're going to constantly be, correcting bad behavior or behavior that's been conditioned that way on purpose by people who wanted them to be talking like that, So
I agree. With Black people, this was in slavery. So it's an ongoing process from people in your family, people in your friend group, people in your circle. It's almost a day-to-day thing that you see people saying things that probably don't know or should know. So it is ongoing. But as far as for white people, I know you mentioned it earlier, John, about they don't understand. How do we explain to them? I'm not explaining shit to them. I'm just telling you right now, they don't want to understand. I work with them, and it's not our job. People have been saying this. It's not our job to educate white people on racism. If they don't know what racism is and they don't want to hear, oh, well, they can go read books just like us. But I won't be explaining nothing to any of them. So they don't even come ask me stuff because they could probably look on my face like I'm not going to ask her nothing. I'm just concerned about Black people, that our ancestors built this country up and they have benefited from it. And I'm not explaining shit to them. They can go Google or figure it out for themselves. That's that's why I am with this for white people.
Enrico, it is an ongoing conversation. One of the gifts of this pandemic is we're able to talk to each other more. So we need to just have some plans, get together, have forums. Because, we all Black folk don't think alike. Like in my family, like just my brother and sister and I, we don't think alike. My children, we don't think alike. So we just need to get some points together, some talking points, some bottom line consensus, and build on that. Because it's an ongoing fight, the older folk. So it's intergenerational. This is an intergenerational fight. And it might not happen in my lifetime, but I'm willing to put the work in because I am a great grandmother, y'all. I know I don't look like it, but I'm a great grandmother. So I got to put the work in for my great granddaughter, for my grandsons, for my children. My mom put the work in for me. She moved this ball up a hill, So it's ongoing. The fight doesn't end. We came here fighting, so we're not gonna Stop fighting. And we got to quit fighting amongst ourselves, though. That we got to work on that.
Most definitely. And I think that's a good point. And that's what this Sunday conversation is, just to kind of kick off the conversation. Rico's doing his part. He's part of the San Francisco Reparations Committee. We have another few other people that's watching that's on that committee. And this is how the conversation starts, but it starts with leadership too. And this is why it's important to kind of see what this picture frame looks like. You know what I mean? It's hard to see the picture when you're in the frame. Black folks, we in the frame right now, right? So we got to think outside of the box. And, everybody has a good point here. And again, it's not here to debate and say you're wrong or this wrong. It's just really to kick the conversation and figure out where do we come, because I'm a believer in the art of thinking. The smartest warrior always win. And again, we only have so many wins left in us as a culture, as a people, because we're steadily getting wiped out in all aspects in this United States of America. So we got to just be strategic. We got to think there's no rights or wrongs, but we got to make sure that when we sell this, so the picture frame, we can see it. Our young people come below us can actually see it. We don't want to get stuck in the frame. And right now, I think across this country, we're stuck in the frame, so we can't see what it looks like. And I'm glad everybody's here to talk about it, get these different points out. People are taking notes. And again, as community, how do we bring the communities together? Talk with our elected officials, talk to these committees, and make sure that we are represented across the board, because what reparations look like in San Francisco or California might look different to somebody in Texas or Louisiana or Arkansas. But again, at least if we have the conversation, people taking the notes, we can really start picking. We know money is number one, and I'm gonna keep pushing that because I'm tired of people saying, "Oh, well, you're getting this and that." Money is definitely the impact, but we also want to think across the board. And I think Rico brought it up earlier, and a couple other people. The tax break in America is where we need to really make sure that that is a part of that settlement. Okay, personal payroll taxes, exempt taxes federally across the board, state and federal. Business tax. Okay, we get in these businesses and 90 times we get impacted by taxes. And I think that's some of the leverage that we could get a part of reparation, because again, there's going to be a number amount that they're going to achieve or want to agree to. And that's why we got to use these different other things to pull to help with reparation. And that's why I was saying, if it's removing the student debt from our people, having free colleges, things of that nature, free payroll taxes. I mean, Jamil, he has a business. Wouldn't you be nice to be able to sell your equipment and your products and not have to worry about sales tax or payroll tax? I mean, that's a big equity thing for businesses that we get impacted by. So that's all. I just want to throw it out there to make sure that we're thinking holistically, but definitely cash part. I'm 100% with everybody. That's the first thing. But we also need to make sure the language in there, in these bills and these legislative process, also includes certain things that definitely will impact our futures, generationals for a long time in front of us. So just wanted to make sure we hone in on that as well.
I want to add one thing that Kadori said many times about everybody ain't gonna make it. That's true, but I'm not willing to leave people behind, because you never know. Somebody might get their stuff together and they're the leader. We don't know who is going to really lead us out of this. So I don't care where they are right now. I'm into that harm reduction. I'm going to meet them where they are. And I'm not saying it's unrealistic. I have a philosophy degree, the lifeboat theory. Everybody ain't going to make it. But I'm not willing to throw my hands up against anybody. It's people I really can honestly say I don't like. I'll sit across the table with them because the goal is bigger than me. My ego is not that big. And if somebody has a big ego, I deal with that too and keep it moving. But I'm not willing to leave people behind at this time. I might get there, but that's just not me.
I don't want to leave them behind either.
And I'm just going to counter that really briefly by saying that, Harriet didn't stop her operation because one Negro couldn't get on pace. All right. So for me, there's an opportunity cost involved in caring for everybody at the expense of everybody else who's in lock and step and ready to move forward. So I just want to make sure that we have that balance. And I'm with Kadori. I'm not here to meet anybody where they're at. If it means that it comes at a high expense. If I can't persuade them within, let's say, 6 minutes or whatnot, then I'm moving on. I'm going to go to somebody else who wants to get on board and wants to get this done. I'm not going to spend this time. I'm not going to sit here and spin my wheels with somebody who must be mentally insane if they want to talk about other things besides.
Then we have to bring up the rear. Right. And I'll give an example. I'm super traumatized. I'm one of a mother that lost a child to gun violence. So I don't want y'all to leave me behind because on his birthday, I'm not ready to work. I got you the next day, so don't leave me behind because of my trauma.
No, that's different. We can talk about that. That's different. And I'm sorry that happened to you.
Thank you.
Who are killing black people every day. That type of mentality. There's a mentality when you go out and you kill your black brother, your black sister, but you got white people over here killing black people. Why ain't you going over there after them? That's my whole thing. Mentality of people like that, like their mindset is already fucked up. So you can't too much. I'm telling you, I'm a nurse. I see stuff different than other people see it. I know you got your profession, everybody got their own, you see different things, but it's different when you see stuff on a certain end and you know these people, they don't want to be saved. They're destructive. They'll destroy everything you got. And if you're around them trying to save them, guess what? You may get taken out with them. So that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about you, sister, having a mental break. My condolences to you for your son. I lost a son too, not to gun violence, but to a motorcycle accident. So I feel your heart. I'm not talking about somebody like you or somebody who really have mental problems. I'm talking about these degenerates who are amongst us. That's really, as fast as we fighting to move ahead, they're fighting faster to pull us back. You know, those are the people I'm talking about.
John, is it okay?
I hear y'all, but I disagree. I ain't leaving my people behind. I don't care where they at, how bad they are.
No, John.
I work with reentry. I work with young people. And you never know when a light switch is going to kick on, right? So I'm just being real. I'm never going to leave people behind. I don't care where they at. And they might take me out. But again, look how many people that our ancestors before us was taken out. Somebody got to be willing to put their life on the line. We got this violence in our community. I'm putting my life on the line. So if it me trying to help one of these young people, they go turn around and shoot me in the back of my head and kill me, I'm willing to take that. But we can't leave our people behind because I'm one of those. Hold on, Rico, hold on a second. I'm one of those people who went through a time in my life that I wasn't all right. What happened if my mentors and the people who connected with me didn't stay there and work with me? Y'all wouldn't have John Henry today. Okay. So I know you're not saying that, but I want to make sure that the work.
Let's keep it funky. Like John, for real, let's keep it funky. What she's talking about.
I know what she's talking about.
What Kadori's talking about are people. Hold up. What she's talking about are black people who are predators in our own goddamn community. But when it's time to get buck with white people who kill black children in our community, when it's time to get buck for white cops and Asian cops who kill our own people, these people, they're not available to be just as buck with them. No, I'm not bringing their little trifling asses with me. They can stay where the hell they are.
That's the ones I'm talking about, sister. You got it. That's what I'm talking about.
I'm going to work with them too, and I'm bringing consciousness up. We're going to get them. They just confused. They just don't have the education or the information. Part of this change is waking the level of consciousness within us. I'm not quitting on none of them. The little shooter out there, little Ray that's shooting Pookie, I'm still going to work with him. Because I know at some point, if I continue to work with him, his level of consciousness is going to wake up. It just takes time. And then you got to understand, these young people are affected by drugs. They're not in the right state of their mind. It's a lot of different things. But I'm not giving up on my people. I love my people. I don't care. Some of them not in the best position. Some of them not in the right mental state. But I'm going to work with my people. I'm going to give them a second chance. And I'm going to keep working with them. That's all I can do. That's my responsibility as a leader of the community. I don't care what they're going through right now. I don't care if they don't think the way we think. But again, if I keep working with them and give them the information, there's a high potential that they will come out of that madness and make a change. Because if I could do it, I was one of those. So y'all talking about me. So I just want y'all to know. Y'all talking about me.
Hold on. I got to get this thought out. I'm going to lose it. I don't want to lose my thought. First off, I want to uplift the individuals that are on the call, because I think that, just listen to everybody is right on point. And I think that sometimes when we disagree to agree, or when we disagree, I think it's just really like a way for us to kind of navigate through, like, what is the official thought that's of everyone, or what's the collective mindset. And I think that what's being said is like we really don't really hold the provocateurs and the individuals that intentionally, right, that they look like us, but intentionally they sabotage our movements, right? They intentionally are the individuals who are in politics in high places, who don't advocate for reparations, who don't advocate for Black community, who is invested in the industrial prison complex. I understand what y'all saying. Definitely those individuals in the beginning of this movement, we're going to have to leave behind, and sociably they'll have to learn. Because I think when we look at every movement, when it goes to Harriet Tubman and all these different individuals who had movements and was trying to become free, the person who actually ratted them out was their own people. Like it wasn't no one else. It was someone else who did it. So I think in terms of leaving community behind, I think that most community members, when we talk about reparations, we talk about cash payment, 100% all of them going to be behind us. And I think that it's just up to us as leaders to continue to fight, continue to do what we do, continue to figure out how do we be the perfect example. And I think through what we do and through our behavior, that's the best way to teach somebody. You know what I mean? And some folks, you know, I agree with have to be left behind. And I'm not talking about Lil Ray Ray and Lil Pookie and Uzi Clip. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about the individuals who intentionally don't believe in the Black movement, those who have assimilated into white America and westernized way of thinking and will never think indigenous, will never think original at all, because they'll be the ones that hold us back and mess up our entire movement, and they'll get us unfocused. They'll start talking about stuff that has nothing to do with what we're talking about. So, I mean, but I did definitely want to uplift everyone thoughts and what they're saying, because everyone on here is powerful. I could feel the powerful vibes from every last person. And I just wanted to uplift you all and let you know that look what people of color or Black people or indigenous people, original people of the land, and look what we can do when we all come together and have productive conversation. Like literally, if someone was writing this down, we would already have a package in this one conversation. So I think like sometimes we kind of talking and me personally, I like to have a growth mindset and making sure that I'm really listening to what each person is saying. So that way I can get full clarity on the actual thought and what's the overall thought. And I think here we all can agree that the overall thought is economic empowerment for our people, funding, getting that money. And Aisha, I heard you when you said the percentages and we're the bank. You know what? I never thought about that. But if I'm the bank and I'm charging you a rate, I mean, like, to me, that's an amazing idea and that's an amazing thought. Like, and I could have it as a variable rate, and you know, you mess up or you default, I can raise that interest on whatever you already owe me. But definitely, like, how do we educate community on what you're saying? Because some individuals won't even be able to understand. And I know John, he knows that stuff. He like that's one of his lanes. So like, how do we educate community on what you're saying? Because like being able to think in that mindset is really innovative, because now that's what builds wealth, is that it's creating those type of percentages and understanding variables and understanding like how people will be able to get paid. So how do we educate community on that? I know that's for a later conversation, John, but I definitely wanted to uplift what you said, because I definitely understood it. I don't understand it maybe in the context that John understand it or you, but I mean, it made sense to me. So I definitely wanted to uplift that.
Thank you, Rico.
Thank
And
you,
I heard everybody, and I want everybody to know I knew exactly what you all was saying. But again, I also have to iterate. I was little Ray Ray. I was little Uzi Clip one time in my community. I was the guy that you said he ain't coming with me. And I'm just being real. And I knew what the context of what I know the content of what y'all was saying. But I just wanted to put that out, because it was a time you wouldn't want me, Age, to come with you. You'd be like, oh, leave his ass over there. I was him. Okay. But again, it comes with mentorship. It comes with being around the right people. And it starts with conversations like this to open your mind. As soon as our young people is willing to open our minds and our elders of the community about this change, and we have these conversations, we awaken that consciousness, because everybody has it, right? But when we in the community, we have drugs, we have different things that impact us. It impacts our consciousness and our mental way of thinking, right? So we got to keep that up. And I just wanted to put that out there, because a lot of people left me behind too. And I was able to stay open, and through mentorship and guidance and conversations like this, making me think outside the box, it has pulled me a long way. And I just don't want to forget about them, because a lot of talent is in our community. It's a lot of love. It's a lot of humility. But again, sometimes the circumstances of where we are, environments, the people we're around, and the things we put in our bodies sometimes give us something off that's not typically us. But we on the right path here. And I think this is a great conversation starter to kind of dive into another part that I want to go into about these reparations, who's get them, right? Because I've listened to other reparation conversations and people are talking about, but what about me? I'm a biracial mixed man. Do I get reparations? I'm from Africa. Do I get reparations? So again, when we talking about reparations, are we looking at the whole Africa diaspora? Or are we talking about the American blacks, right? And what does that look like?
American Black.
Okay. What you want to say, Age? I saw you shaking your head.
Yeah, I was shaking my head to the diaspora. You know, they need to just go ahead and put in the work to shake down the queen and her royal spanks. You know, that's their fight. You know, figure that out. We got our blueprint here that we're gonna do. This is for people who are American descendants of slavery. And I would even add, if I could, folks who maybe even immigrated as Black people back in like 1910 or 20, you know, because they were still predisposed to Jim Crow and all that other nonsense, presumably. Okay, so and I'm just speaking. I haven't done the research exactly to say who's exposed to what, but I think that's the point of studying it and seeing if their families actually did endure the same exposure or similar or comparable exposure to Jim Crow, and then you would do some sort of percentage of what they'd be given. For the biracial child, you know, I would just say if one of your parents is ADOS, then you just get half of what everybody else is getting. It's very simple to me. You know, you're not ADOS on both sides. So it's not very difficult to split that up.
Right. Well,
I'm going to say, go ahead.
Go ahead, Tony. Go ahead.
In this country, one drop of Black blood made you Black. You experience a lot of negative things for that. I think you have to have the lineage born in America. I'm really big on Pan-Africanism, but what that means to me is a lot of times we African Americans do stuff and it trickles and ripples to the rest of the world. So they don't need to get our coins. They watching what we do. They sometimes elevate what we do, but we need to but take care of those born here. I'll give you an example. President Obama, no, sorry. Love him, no. And we just have to love him. So he don't get it because his experience didn't come through here. His children get it. His wife get it. So I think you have to have been born here. That birth certificate, and now birth certificates have a barcode on it.
Yeah,
that's what's gonna matter.
And I think that's a
well,
great point.
I think it's more than just that. It's genealogy as well. Just because you're born here, I don't think you should just get it. It really comes down to your lineage. Do you have roots in this country? You know, with Obama, you know, it's no surprise that he basically skated the whole time he was in office. You know,
Asia,
now that I'm going,
Asia, I'm saying exactly what you said.
Well, you said you like him. I'm just saying I don't like Obama. Once you realize how much he could have done for us and how he spoke against reparations, like he took the time to speak against reparations, like he had any credence at all to speak of the matter.
Why
right?
were you distracted on because I love him? But I agree with what you're saying. You distracted by my love for him. So yeah, I think you have to have that lineage here. And I hadn't thought about those coming here, immigrating, who are still alive in the 1910s, because they dealt with Jim Crow laws. They dealt with a lot of stuff we did, you know, even in San Francisco, the redevelopment, you know, so if you came here through that. But I think maybe what you're saying also, Asia, everybody don't get the same amount. That's the conversation too. I hadn't thought of that. I was thinking if you're Black, you was born here, you experienced slavery, you get it. But I don't know now.
But again,
also the indigenous native to the land, because when we talk about Native American, okay, we know that there are Native Americans, but then there's also indigenous native to the land, which are copper colored people who were actually enslaved also, right? Who look just like us, who have the same pigmentation, who have the same bone structure as majority of us, because most of us don't even know if we were traveled from Africa or we're the original of the actual land. So I think like how do so 1, 2, 3, that DNA site, right? How do you even know the actual genealogy when all that stuff is fake? So what's the real lineage of anything? You know what I'm saying? So I don't know, what would it actually look like? Because I know that my family come from Jackson, Mississippi, and I mean there's documents that kind of prove all that stuff, but the history is being so lost. What about the individuals that wouldn't be able to prove that because their genealogy and families were destroyed because of the war on drugs and all that stuff? So how would they be able to actually prove that they were descendants of slavery compared to they just black and they came to America 50 years ago and they don't have the same experiences as us, but they're living as if they have that same experience. I mean,
So
that's a
how do you
question. I don't
answer
know.
that?
I'm just asking.
Rico, let me say this though, Rico. You got to realize none of us was affected per se by slavery living here in America, but our great grandmothers and different ones, right? You got to think about when the slaves were released. We just celebrated Juneteenth. A lot of those people got rid of their names, so it's hard to track where it all came from because those different slave owners, once the people were free, a lot of people changed their names, their last name to different things of that nature. But again, the reason why I'm advocating for the American blacks is because every culture has enslaved black people, even the Indians. And like Asia said earlier, somebody said earlier, the Indians have got parts of reparation through land and things of that nature. We are the only one. Yes, we Rico.
Hold on. Not all Native people are even recognized as Native people. I'm just saying.
Right.
The Native copper-colored people to the Americas are not even known or recognized as Native American. They're not even. So are we excluding them, right, from the equation? That's what I'm asking. Are we excluding them from the equation?
No, I think it's.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I think we're overthinking this. What we need to focus on is what would your experience have been had you been a descendant of a people who were so brutally disenfranchised in the 1800s and prior to that, right? If that includes, your Cherokee grandmother who had long kinky hair, but she's not included in the Cherokee tribe because she doesn't look Eurocentric enough for them. Because we know that they license out that identity to white folks, right? So if that includes her, then you get reparations, because she had to deal with, and her descendants presumably had to deal with what it means to be Black in America and not even be entitled, not even get the allotments of being Native and indigenous to this land because you are Black, right? So I think that it doesn't have to be a situation where it's like, well, if I can't say, exactly what plantation, my family comes from, then there's no reparations. If you can go back to let's say 60 something in this country, I'm not worried about that person getting money without being able to say, well, this is the exact plantation. I'm talking about the people who came here 10 years ago, 40 years ago, 60 years ago. You ain't getting shit. It's just very simple with that. And these are the people who are arguing against us. We can completely ignore them. I'm not worried about somebody else who has indigenous blood that's copper, because I come from that background. My great grandmothers who come from that, right? I'm not worried about validating how Black they are and saying that they can get this reparation, not this. I already know how it was. If they were marrying Black people who were descendants of slaves, that we know we were in that culture, that community of disenfranchised folks. I'm focused on making sure that the people who should be focusing on CARICOM and reparations for the islands, that they're not double dipping and getting money over here as well. Because once we get our reparations, they're going to try and get their, if we allow them to piggyback, if we allow the Kamalas to piggyback what's owed to us here, they will take that money and they will go to the Caribbean and they will replicate the process and get more money. You see, I'm not worried about, the brothers and sisters who are like, I'm Native, indigenous, blah, blah, blah. You're like, nigga, just say you Black. Like, I'm not worried about them. I'm worried about the other ones who are really trying to.
You're absolutely right, Asian. Keep in mind, my knowledge has never said Black woman. I've never heard that. I don't know if anybody else ever heard, but I've never heard her say she's a Black woman.
That's true.
I haven't.
I haven't either.
Y'all leave y'all sister alone. Now we're gonna keep moving on with this conversation.
We
in the same sorority. She ain't my sister.
She's a woman, right? We know women empowerment. Y'all support y'all sister now. Don't be backing out. Don't be backing out of y'all women support.
Hell no. There's contingencies with that. There's contingencies that we can always.
So same count with Obama.
We get a little off here, but we're about to get close to wrapping up because we get close to the end of the time today. But I think this was a great conversation. It's a great starter. for where we need to be going as community, as we start working out of this, because it can get complicated. How to put this process together, how to really advocate and make sure that all that needs to be represented by these reparations are. It's a lot of work, and Rico is up to the task, and I know it's a bunch of people on that committee, and I'm glad some of the people on that committee is getting educated and getting information. I know Rico have a wealth of information, but again, we don't want to be advocating for co-op opportunities. We don't want to be advocating for assistance, right? We want to talk about ownership. We want to talk about owning businesses. We want to talk about generational wealth and making sure that these cash payments does that. Here in San Francisco, when they talk about the monies that they don't have and they can't afford it, I seen somebody in the chats earlier talking about corporations being bankrupt or different things. If we ask what we want, I mean, it's hard to look at the overall what the impact would be. But I just want to talk specifically right now for myself and Rico and some of the San Franciscans here. Okay, we have about 5% or less of Black folks in San Francisco. Okay, and our mayor just unleashed her budget. I think it's $14+ billion. There's enough funding there to take care of 5% of Black San Franciscans with $2.5 million if we made all 54 of the departments out of their budget and things of that nature. So when they tell us that they don't have the funding or they would go bankrupt for paying reparations, I think it's BS. I think it's financial opportunities there to make sure that the people that's been impacted by this slavery and some of the things that's impacted us today, there's money there. We could spend $3, $4, $5 trillion on this. We got infrastructure bills for trillions of dollars. America has to do their part, and we're not pushing white guilt. It's about America as a whole, the federal government, the state government, the local. They have to make this right. Okay. They try to make their small acknowledgments. The president just signed Juneteenth as a national holiday, and that's a sign of acknowledgement. And we need to take it further, and it starts with reparations, and it starts with equity, and it starts about a lot of the things that we need to do moving forward. Again, the race is not over, even with the money, until we systemically deal with the Constitution, the way our federal judges are being appointed. There's a bigger fight, and reparations is just a start, but we got a lot of work in the Black and brown community to do. And we're going to keep doing it. And it starts with conversation starters like this. And it takes community leaders and people to stand up to start working to do this. So with that being said, I'm going to pass it on to Rico. And then we're going to go ahead and get some last minute words from everybody before we close out today's segment. We will be having a follow-up to this because I want Rico to come back and some of the people from the commission that are working on it. I know it's going to take a long time, but kind of give some of that insight of what the conversations are looking like. I know there's going to be certain restrictions and things that he can't say, but I want to kind of see what is that looking like, that body of work. I've joined a couple of the first meeting, but what does that body of work look like? Because it's still going to be a lot of questions that's going to still have to be answered. And I like that Rico, because it's still going to be some stuff that we need to add in there as the numbers start rolling out. Yeah. So, I mean, I first off, I just want to say thank you, John, for having me again, my brother from another mother. We just going to continue to fight and continue to do what we do. I think everybody here is amazing, and all the amazing words was very uplifting this Sunday. And I think for me, this is not only therapeutic, but it's very spiritual and touches my soul when I get with my people and we are able to have these type of conversations, engage with each other. I'm a very sociable person. Hopefully one day we can do this in person and hang out and kind of chill. But definitely when it comes to the task force, my number one goal is economic empowerment. And, I'll probably be the person who get the most slack or whatever, but at the end of the day, I'm a fighter and I'm going to say what I'm going to say. So I'm 100% locked in on financial empowerment and economic empowerment. Also, I always want to tell everyone, watch all the reparation task force. There's one for California. There's one they're doing a study also nationally. So just kind of keep your eyes on some of that stuff. So that way we're aware of who are these people who are doing the study, who are the people who are making these decisions. I've looked at a couple of the task force and I know a couple of the names on it. And those are the people that we kind of need to leave behind. They're the ones who's been doing this work for many, many, many moons, and they were the sellouts, and they were the ones who
led certain movements, and our people still haven't progressed. So I just want to definitely let everybody know, just kind of follow some of that stuff. So that way, if we need to rally and create our own movement outside of their movements, create our own hashtags, reparations hashtag, and we uniting each other. I think that that's going to be important moving forward, because, you know, they go get those Black folks who agree with them, and they already got their pre-agenda and create a task force, and then all of a sudden they're rolling out something a year later, and they're the voice of us. So I think that we just got to be aware of that. Also, the race isn't to the swift nor to the strong, but those who can endure. If we continue to endure this race, possibilities become endless. Thank you, John. Both sides of the conversation is definitely going to be the BET, the new BET of Black media.
I just want to be the TED Talk of Black media. I don't want to be BET. I just want to be the TED Talk. That's powerful stuff. Definitely, Rico, drop some of that information in chat so we can get it out to community to follow those. I got a couple of links, but yeah, you can get that information so we can put it up there. Asia, before you speak next, can you please put the book information, because we want to make sure we share that with the community, get it out there. It was a couple of books you talked about. If you could put those in the chat so we can get it out to the people. And then I'm going to pass it to you so you can go ahead and give your parting words about reparations and what you think we have to do moving forward for the community.
Thanks again, John, for having me here. And thank you guys on the panel for joining us. I think this has been a very productive conversation. We're getting to the particulars of what reparations looks like for us. I think for a while, we had the issue of trying to convince folks, that were old reparations. And like, I think Jamel, I think I'm saying your name right. I can't see your name here, but I think what he was mentioning was like, we're the only people who will talk ourselves out of getting money. And so I like that, here we're all, we're on the same accord as far as what the priority is. The priority is cash reparations, whether you decide it's cash reparations over everything else or cash reparations. And also, as Rico was saying, or what have you, at least we've, budged closer to getting to that same objective. And so also, what I want to say is that, moving forward, let's try and, again, shift gears. I don't know how I'm going to be able to speak on this intelligently or to bring it to a level that people will understand when I say that I want us to start thinking of ourselves as a bank. That to me is everything. Once we can determine that, well, first off, I think it would have involved, Miss Queenan, and I apologize. I just got stuck on calling you Miss Queenan. If we can, raise the self-esteem of our people, I think that is the first step to helping them realize what does it mean to treat yourself as a bank who can say, we require variable rates and we will raise interest rates or lower interest rates if certain contingencies are to happen, right? To get us to that level first, we need to raise the self-esteem of our people, I think. And then the financial literacy sort of comes alongside that. And so, I don't want to be long-winded, but again, I want to reemphasize, if you're interested, you can Google Charlie Munger's PDF. It's not in print form. I think it's like several hundred pages long, but it's worth it. And there's some pictures there and there's some humor there. But Charlie Munger, again, is Warren Buffett's right-hand man or he was until recently for Berkshire Hathaway. I believe the book is titled Poor Charlie's Almanac or something like that, which is basically a spin-off of how Benjamin Franklin did his book. And he's a very big fan of Benjamin Franklin. But anyway, it's a nice holistic way, if I will say, of internalizing and actually intellectualizing what is wrong with our current system of government and finances, what have you. And again, it all goes down to incentives, where our incentive structure is so messed up. And so we as Black people, once we recognize that, for example, a lot of these government agencies don't have an incentive to fix any of the things that they're there to fix because they want to keep their job, then we can start, saying, well, how do we incentivize, our future leaders into doing right by Black people and people, beyond Black people, right? Well, if you change the incentive structure, if you say, okay, well, instead of, my apologies, that's my alarm. Instead of, being in office and being allowed to get paid, just to sit on your hands for, 4 years or whatnot. How about, maybe you get paid and there's a reassessment of how well you're doing, within 6 months of being in office, instead of just trying to wait to the re-election time to kind of say you're going to do something to, to get things going, which is what we're seeing with Governor Newsom, I believe. He's so afraid of the recall that, I believe he's trying to really push his reparations thing, but I don't think he has any intentions of seeing that through, especially since he didn't show up in person to that meeting, which I showed up for virtually. He had a previously recorded a statement for our meeting. So, but anyway, I digress. So the Poor Man's Almanac, I believe, or Poor Charlie's Almanac, I believe that's what it's called. You can get it as a PDF. It's not in print. It's by Charlie Munger. The other one would be The Richest Man in Babylon. I forget the name of the guy who wrote it. It's very thin, easy read. You can read it if you're just waiting for, your flight to take off or something like that. And then From Here to Equality by Dr. William Darity. Definitely an important read so that you can combat all the counter arguments if you're interested in combating those arguments as far as like why we're owed reparations. And I'm with is it Kandori? I'm with Kandori on the fact that I will not go back and forth with white people anymore. There's just an opportunity cost, and my opportunity cost is I feel like I get I age too rapidly if I have to keep talking to these people who don't care about my people. They don't care about me. So why am I spending my wills just trying to educate them? So but anyway, thanks for having me here, and I'd like to do this again sometime.
Yeah, thank you. You available? You always welcome to come to any of our conversations. Check out our website. For all of you who want to be panelists for any of our upcoming conversations, please go there. But I gotta mess with you, Asia, because you just said we gotta lift up we gotta lift up the self-esteem of our people, but you're gonna leave all our people behind. So how you gonna get there? I'm just
you can do your part. You can do your part to help them out. I'm saying don't bring them Trojan horses in my house. Okay, I don't have time to figure out who gonna be the one that finally come across the finish line. I'm not trying to take a bullet, okay? So if you want to do that, that's on you. I already know what my limitations and boundaries are. So I appreciate you being able to do what you do.
I was just giving you some smoke. That's all. I was messing with you. It was all out of love. But with that being said, we'll move on to Kadora. You want to give out your closing words and what you
Yes. Thank you, John, for having me. And I just I appreciate everyone on the panel today. Everyone has really brought more knowledge to me than I had. I'm leaving with more than I came, so that's a good thing. I just believe that the money is number one, because once you get the money, you can decide what you want to do with everything else. Black people all over this country should be making their list out now, for whatever amount it's going to be. What am I going to do? Prioritizing what can make their lives better and turn it around from what we're going through right now. That's an individual choice that everybody has to make. But I look forward to reparations. I've been working since I was 16. I'm tired of working for everybody else. I want to be able to indulge in my business and grow generational wealth for my family by getting what's due to me from my ancestors. They helped build this country. So it's long overdue. And I'm looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you for coming on today and helping with this conversation as well. We appreciate you and all the support you do for the community. I want to thank you. So we're going to go move on to Miss Queenan. Her name is Miss Tony, but she's been queening all day. So
that's my new name. Don't forget it. Well, thank you, everyone. I've also been uplifted and ready to, go fight some more. So I think the bottom line we've all talked about is we want some money. I also think we could get this individual money, but it may be easier for them to give us some collective money. And what I mean by that is, for example, Georgetown gives free education for descendants of the slaves there. I'll take some collective money. I want my individual money, but if it's just easier for you to send it to me as a group, let's do that too, because then that'll empower us as a nation. And instead of reinventing the wheel, I'm glad you gave me a reading list, Miss Asia. But I'm going to leave us with this poem because I think it has a lot to do with how we can move forward. And it's with Sada Shakur. And she says, it is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to win. We must love each other and support each other. We have nothing to lose but our chains. So I'm just ready to fight. I stay fighting. So let's do it. Let's do it together. Let's get this money. Let's empower our community and then work on health and wealth and love. That's all.
See, I love Miss Tony. That queening is real. See, that's powerful, man. That was good words to give back to the people. I love you for that. Miss Michaela, do you have something you want to leave to the community?
Yes. I work in the mental health field. So what we have been dealing with mostly is one, actually getting more funding, and two, using that funding to be allocated towards the mental health services we need and actually creating more mental health services. So I'm still going to keep on, fighting that fight, because I believe that all people with mental health challenges should be treated just the same as people who don't have mental health challenges. So, and we've also been dealing with things related to the unhoused too. So
Definitely. Thank you, Michaela, for coming on. The work you do is very important, and we appreciate you as well. So thank you for coming on today and being part of today's show. Last but not least, my brother, Mr. Grind Time. Come on, holla at the people before we get out of here.
Hey, first I want to thank everybody's for what they had to share and whatnot. And like the lady said, I'm coming with some things I didn't have when I came. My closing remark is, there's a phrase I use. I often say that I'm Black first. I'm not male or female first. I'm not Democrat or Republic first. I'm not Protestant or Catholic first. I'm Black first. And I understand that white supremacy stronghold on me as a Black person is its economy. And I understand that Black economic empowerment is my only way to break those chains and that stronghold. And it is our only path to success. So I would say in closing that if we can stick to the conversation of money when discussing money first and foremost, then we can stay focused on all the other things once we secure our freedom through that economic freedom hold. Thank you.
Man, powerful stuff, powerful stuff. Thank you all for giving that information and feedback to the people. It is much needed. I have enjoyed myself today with this conversation. I got a little bit more research that I need to do to continue to further impact our community. As you guys know, here at both sides of the conversation, we are always about intentionally educating the community through communication and information. And it starts with conversations like this. I believe in freedom. Free the dome, take the chains off the brains, and we will maintain and do the things that we need to impact our people and beyond. And it starts with reparations, and it starts with money. And so the people out there listening, we want our dollar bills, as they say, dollar bills, y'all, so that we can impact our community, because it is a lot of lack of services and things that definitely could be changed if we had those reparations. And it's a good gesture to go ahead and start thinking about it and keeping these conversations. We're going to continue to pray and support for Rico and the Reparations Committee in San Francisco as they begin doing their work. Because for whatever reason here in the West Coast, we seem to be the people who kick off the chain. So I hope we get it right here in California. We hope this model will definitely impact and empower our community economically, so that as our models be used across this country, we could get some true justice. I don't know if we ever going to be equally whole, but I know they say make them whole, but I don't always agree with that comment. But again, I think it's a great start to building some wealth for our community, removing some of this debt, because I believe the true slavery of today that's impacted our people is debt. So we are not free until we can remove that debt. And it starts with economical empowerment, which everyone talked about today, the monies. Once we get the monies, we can remove some of this debt. We can remove some of our mental health. We can remove some of this gun violence. We can remove some of the things that have impacted us as a community as we get this funding. So with that being said, thank you all for tuning in. This Tuesday, we will have another Hidden Gem segment where we'll be highlighting our Black and brown businesses as well as uplifting our community leaders as we do every Tuesday. And then this Thursday, we're going to have a Educational Thursday presented by Officer Ken Lee of San Francisco Police Department, talking about fireworks safety to educate the community about what's going on with fireworks and how people are going to be impacted before we approach the 4th of July weekend. So that's going to be an Educational Thursday. And then next Sunday, we're going to have another conversation. We're going to be talking about what does independence mean to other people. We know we just celebrated Juneteenth, and we understand that was the true time of our freedom, but we're going to have a community conversation to talk about Independence Day and things of that nature. And it's going to be a real community conversation. So looking for all you that can join next Sunday. We still have open panelist spot. We're going to keep it real and talk about this thing that we celebrate, or in this country, they celebrate 4th of July, Independence Day. So with that being said, thank you all for tuning in today. What a phenomenal panel that we had today. All of our panelists with all the wealth, knowledge, information, kicking off the conversation with reparations. I hope this was informative. There will be another conversation about reparations as we move closer, as we get more information coming from the state and locally here, as the progress of the work continue. And that's why we always thank our good brother Rico here, because he is a freedom fighter. He is also out there making sure that our young people are doing the things that need to be done and making sure community has a real voice when it comes to making sure everything is right and accountability. So thank you, Rico. Thank you, Asia, for being a freedom fighter. Thank you, Michaela. Thank you, Miss Queen, Miss Tony, for all the things you do for the community. Miss Kadori, Jamil. We just go keep pushing this Black love, Black power, all power to our people and to all people. But it starts with us. We make the change. We change the game. So let's do it, y'all. Let's be very inspirational and influencers to the rest of the people of this so-called United States of America. With that being said, good evening. We'll see you all this Tuesday. Have a blessed one. Be safe out there. Young people, guns down. We're going to stop this violence. We're going to curb it. As the resources come to the community, we're going to continue to bless them. We have to love each other. It starts with us. Let's do it. For us, by us. See you all this Tuesday.